The galaxy whispered about one ghost for thousands of years, a shadow that drifted through forgotten regions where no star dared to shine its light, an ancient terror humans once created when they were still carved from fire and fear. They called it the Obsidian Leviathan, a ship so old that even human records refused to speak clearly about it, as if memory itself was afraid to remember what it had seen. Most alien civilizations treated it as nothing more than a story, a myth told by frightened captains after too much drinking. Some believed it was an old mining vessel. Others claimed it was a weapon from the previous age of humanity, a time when humans fought like storms and didn't know mercy. But nobody, not even humans themselves, ever confirmed its existence. Only fragments of ships found drifting in dead sectors told another story. Ships torn apart without burn marks, without weapon signatures, without survivors. And every fragment looked as if space itself had opened its mouth and swallowed the missing pieces. Whenever someone asked what could do that, the only answer ever whispered was, the ghost ship. Today, the Zirath Armada, the largest alien battle force in this region of the galaxy, gathered around the Veil Nebula to begin their assault on a human colony named Arden 3. 5,000 alien warships floated in perfect formation, their metallic bodies shining like jagged knives ready to cut open a sleeping world. Their commanders laughed in private channels, mocking humans with casual arrogance. Earth is weak, one said. Their fleets are small, another added. They hide behind peace treaties because they fear war. Even the Zirath Admiral, a creature with 4 luminous eyes and a proud voice, declared proudly, "No power in this galaxy can stop us. Humanity will kneel before sunset." His war council roared in approval, their screens flashing battle readiness signs. The entire fleet moved forward with confidence, their engines humming through the glowing clouds of the Veil Nebula. But inside their radars, something strange happened. A tremor, a flicker, a distortion, the kind that should not exist. A single shadow appeared at the very edge of detection. It was not a ship. It was not debris. It was not a star. It was simply nothing. A hole in the nebula. A void without color. The radar officer growled, probably a glitch, but the shadow grew bigger. Temperature sensors dropped. Electromagnetic readings collapsed. And then something worse, sound waves they couldn't explain. Not real sound, more like pressure inside the mind. The officer reported urgently, "Admiral, something is approaching. I don't understand. It's moving without light." The Admiral frowned. "Explain." The officer swallowed. "It's like a structure, bigger than a city." Before anyone could react, every screen in the command center went black. Not dark, not offline, completely black, as if light had been ripped from them. Officers hit buttons, panels, emergency protocols, nothing worked. A harsh whisper echoed through the ships, not through speakers, but directly inside their minds. "Do not approach this zone." The Admiral froze. No one knew the voice. No code matched it. Every creature in every ship felt their hearts turning cold. This was not a threat. It was a command. A law of nature speaking. Ships tried rebooting their systems, but everything stayed dead. Engines failed. Lights dimmed. The entire Armada drifted helplessly inside the nebula, as if held in invisible hands. Then the shadow moved. Slowly. Terribly. The nebula light bent around it, revealing a shape so massive that even the Admiral stopped breathing. A single human ship emerged from the darkness. It was the size of a moon. Its hull looked ancient, like black stone cut from the heart of a dead star. No lights, no flags, no markings, just silent, frozen power older than civilization itself. The Admiral whispered with trembling lips, "That myth was real." Officers stepped back from their stations as if they were standing too close to a wild animal. Entire ships whispered prayers in languages older than their empires. The Leviathan drifted toward the alien Armada, moving without engines, without sound, without any sign of life. It didn't attack. It didn't communicate. It simply awakened. Tremors rippled through space. A vibration crawled up every hull. Alien officers shouted warnings, but nothing worked. The Admiral finally screamed, Fire everything. Now! Thousands of alien ships launched plasma storms, missiles, beam weapons, all vanished before reaching the Leviathan's hull. Weapons disappeared as if swallowed by gravity that bent the rules. Then came the flash. Not a beam. Not a strike. Just white light that appeared for half a second. When it faded, 1,000 alien ships were gone. Completely gone. Not destroyed. Not broken. Not drifting. Just empty space where metal giants once floated. The screams inside the remaining fleet grew louder. What kind of weapon is that? No readings. No debris. Our allies didn't even leave shadows. The admiral tried to retreat, but engines refused to obey. Something was holding them in place. It was like the Leviathan had wrapped the Armada inside an invisible cage. One alien captain cried hysterically, "We were not supposed to face this. This thing should not exist." Another shouted, "This is not a human ship. This is a curse." The admiral ordered emergency backup drives, but even those melted into sparks. The Leviathan drifted closer, its surface shifting like a living stone. Strange symbols glowed faintly across its body, like veins waking up after deep sleep. The Armada realized the ship wasn't just big. It was awakening more with every passing second. And then, the Leviathan spoke again. "You have entered a restricted zone." The voice was calm but absolute, as if the universe itself had spoken. Aliens dropped to their knees, clutching their heads. Officers fainted. Even the admiral felt his vision blur. One officer screamed, "Sir, this thing is inside our neural circuits." Another shouted, "It's reading our memories." The Leviathan's hull brightened with patterns that pulsed like a heartbeat, each beat sending waves of force through the Armada. Fear turned into horror. Horror turned into hopelessness. They were trapped. And they knew it. The greatest fleet in this region of the galaxy, 5,000 warships strong, was now face-to-face with humanity's oldest nightmare. A weapon built when humans were still a threat even to themselves. A relic that should have remained buried. And the Armada understood a truth more terrifying than extinction. They were in the presence of something designed to judge entire civilizations. The admiral's voice cracked as he whispered, "We cannot fight this. We are insects to it." The Leviathan shifted again, releasing small drones shaped like floating black shards. They spread across the nebula like silent snowflakes, scanning each alien ship. Screens flickered to life for a moment, showing the drones absorbing energy. Then everything turned black again. Officers screamed as the drones passed through their ships' hulls as if passing through mist. No impact. No resistance. Just violation of every natural law they knew. The admiral realized the Leviathan wasn't attacking. It was studying them. Measuring them. Choosing who would live and who would vanish next. The Zirath Armada floated in stunned silence, thousands of ships paralyzed in the heart of the nebula, lights flickering like dying candles as fear spread from corridor to corridor. Officers trembled, soldiers clutched their seats, and commanders stared at blank screens that reflected only their own panic. Every ship, no matter how large or advanced, felt suddenly small, like insects caught under the shadow of a mountain that had opened its eyes. The obsidian Leviathan did nothing, yet its silent presence crushed them more than any weapon could. Across the fleet, alarms blinked weakly but could not sound. Systems tried to reboot but failed, and every mind felt the same pressure, a weight on their chest as if someone was quietly holding their breath for them. Fear turned into suffocation. Inside the flagship, the Zirath admiral tried to stand tall, but his 4 glowing eyes flickered with terror. His voice cracked as he ordered engineers to repair the power grid, but before they could answer, the ship vibrated through its bones. A low hum rolled across the Armada, soft, slow, like a giant breathing. Every alien felt it inside their bones. Officers whispered shakily, "It's waking up, again." Another replied, "This is not war. This is judgment." The admiral clenched his fists, fighting the wave of dread crawling inside his spine. "We must send a message," he said, forcing authority into his tone. But his courage felt like sand slipping through fingers. "Any channel. Any frequency. Beg if you must. Ask what it wants. But when the communication team tried to activate even a single transmitter, the screens flickered white, and a pulse of energy swept through the ship. The crew screamed as symbols appeared, strange glowing marks they had never seen, written in a language older than their empire, older than their race. The marks pulsed like a heartbeat, slow at first, then faster, and every pulse stabbed the fleet with a deeper sense of dread. It's inside our systems. Inside us, an officer whispered, shaking violently. The admiral realized the truth. The Leviathan wasn't speaking through technology. It was speaking through fear. In one of the smaller cruisers, a young Zirath soldier named Talar struggled to breathe. She pressed her back against the cold metal wall, tears forming in her eyes as she felt the presence watching her. Her hands shook uncontrollably as she whispered to herself, "I didn't come to die. I didn't come for this." Around her, other soldiers tried to comfort each other, but every time the Leviathan's hum rolled through the ship, they clutched their heads and cried out as if something was pressing on their minds. Talar felt her heart racing out of control. The ship lights flickered again, and she saw her reflection, eyes full of fear she had never felt before. She wondered if humans had felt the same when this ship was first made. She wondered if anyone deserved to face something like this. Meanwhile, on the flagship bridge, the admiral finally gathered the courage to activate a long-range beacon, one that did not require internal systems, one powered by pure emergency energy cells. "Send distress to our empire," he ordered. Tell them we found the ghost. Tell them it's real." But the moment the beacon lit, the Leviathan's surface flickered again and released a wave of darkness, a pulse that hit the flagship like a silent storm. The beacon collapsed, melting in seconds, and the admiral felt his knees weaken. "It won't let us call for help," he whispered. Across the Armada, thousands of alien hearts thudded inside their chests as the Leviathan drifted closer. It released a deep vibration, a soundless echo that rippled through the nebula. It felt like sorrow. Not anger. Not rage. But sorrow, ancient and heavy, as if the ship remembered something painful. And in that moment, the aliens realized something far worse. The Leviathan didn't want to destroy them. It didn't care about them. To this ancient machine, they were nothing more than intruders disturbing a grave. Finally, the Leviathan spoke again, its voice echoing inside every mind across the fleet. "Unidentified Armada. You have entered a restricted relic zone. This area is under old human empire protection. State your intention." The words were calm but carried a force that shook even the bravest. The admiral forced himself forward. His voice trembled as he replied, We did not know. We came to attack a human colony." The moment the words left his lips, the entire Armada felt the air shift. The Leviathan's lights darkened, as if the ship inhaled sharply, as if those ancient engines remembered war. The voice returned, slower now, edged with disappointment. "A human colony. You intend to harm protected people." The admiral's breath froze. The crew around him felt a chill run through their veins. Talar in the lower cruiser whispered, please don't," even though she knew the ship couldn't hear her words. Or maybe it could. Because the Leviathan's shadow expanded across the nebula, darkening everything beneath it. Another hum rumbled, deeper, heavier, pressing on every alien's heart. For the first time since the encounter began, the Leviathan moved with purpose. Not drifting. Not studying. Moving. Its colossal hull shifted slowly toward the center of the Armada, and the nebula's light bent unnaturally as if space bowed in respect. Fear exploded across every ship. Some aliens tried to flee in escape pods, but the pods refused to launch. Others prayed. Some cried. Some clung to each other. And then the emotional breaking point hit. The Leviathan activated a single panel on its hull, revealing a glowing scar, a wound from ancient battles humans never recorded. The ship remembered pain. The ship remembered sacrifice. And the ship remembered its purpose: protect humans at all costs. That purpose had not died. It had only slept. The voice returned, this time quieter, like a ghost whispering through the spine of the universe. "You will not harm them." The admiral felt his throat close. His crew trembled uncontrollably. Some tried to answer, but words refused to come out. The Leviathan's lights brightened again, illuminating the faces of terrified aliens inside every ship. And then, the ship released a single pulse. A warning. Soft, but enough to make every ship's hull crack just slightly. Enough to make every alien understand that mercy was running out. Enough to break their courage completely. The Admiral collapsed to his knees, tears gathering in his eyes. "We made a mistake," he whispered. "We thought humans were weak. We were wrong." And as the Leviathan drifted closer, scanning their memories, learning their fears, choosing their fate, the entire Armada understood one terrifying truth. They had awakened something ancient. Something powerful. Something emotional. Something that remembered every human it ever protected. And it was ready to protect again. Earth received the impossible signal at 3:19 Galactic Standard Time. A faint whisper of data that should not exist. A code format no modern system used. A signature that came from a nightmare humanity hoped was gone forever. Inside the massive Terran command center, alarms flashed, screens shifted through colors, and old servers that had not activated in centuries suddenly turned themselves on. Officers stared at each other in disbelief as the ancient message repeated, "Leviathan operational." Even saying the words felt unreal. The room fell silent as if every human heart paused together. A young technician almost dropped his console, whispering, "No, no, this can't be true." A senior officer felt his throat tighten as memories of old war stories whispered through his mind. Stories he always thought were exaggerated. But the data had no doubt. The Obsidian Leviathan, humanity's darkest relic, was awake again. Around the command table, generals looked at the hologram of the signal. Some stood frozen. Some rubbed their faces in disbelief. Some stepped back as though the screen itself carried danger. One general whispered, "Why would it activate after so long?" Another answered, voice shaking, "Only if it detected a coded threat against humans." A third general clenched his jaw, fear flickering under his breath. What if it thinks we're still the old empire? What if it doesn't follow modern protocols? The room's temperature felt colder. The air thicker. Even the hum of machinery sounded nervous. Humanity had built many weapons over the centuries, but the Leviathan was different. It was not just a warship. It was a verdict forged from an age when humans were brutal even to themselves, an age when ships were not commanded, they were unleashed. Emergency orders spread across Earth instantly. A small elite human team, known as the Echo Unit, was scrambled within minutes. They were specialists trained for ancient relics, the only humans taught the old codes, the only ones who might have a chance to communicate with the Leviathan. Captain Mara Vance, their leader, stood silent as she suited up. Her hands were steady, but her eyes carried storm clouds. She whispered to herself, "If it really woke up, this is not a mission. This is a confession." Her team didn't ask questions. They had read enough history to understand the danger. When their shuttle launched, Earth held its breath. Every human watching the mission felt a strange mix of pride, fear, guilt, and responsibility, as if a long-buried ancestor had suddenly knocked on their door. Meanwhile, deep inside the nebula, the Zirath Armada continued shaking under the Leviathan's silent attention. The alien ships floated like prisoners in a cold, blue fog that refused to move. No engines. No signals. No hope. Drones from the Leviathan drifted past every ship, scanning minds, memories, emotions. Some aliens fainted from the pressure. Others cried silently. Some stared blankly as if their souls were being read like open books. The Admiral tried to maintain his dignity, but his hands trembled as he watched one drone hovering inches from his face. It felt as if his mind was transparent. The drone pulsed blue, then purple, then red. The Admiral's heart almost stopped, but the drone floated away. It had judged him, and moved on. That somehow felt worse. Inside a lower cruiser, young Talar sat curled in a corner, clutching the broken strap of her armor, her lips shaking as she whispered prayers from her childhood. The pressure inside her skull made her feel small, fragile, exposed. She remembered her family. She remembered her home. She wondered if she would ever see them again. A fellow soldier sat beside her, tears rolling silently down his face. "It's not killing us," he whispered. "That's the worst part. It's thinking." Talar nodded, wiping her cheeks with trembling hands. "If it wanted us dead, we would already be gone. It's deciding." That realization broke something inside her. Being judged by a myth was far worse than death by a weapon. Back on the Leviathan itself, old systems flickered awake. Deep corridors remained dark, but the core chamber glowed with ancient power. Massive rings rotated slowly, awakening with creaks and groans like bones of a giant stretching after a long sleep. Old human AI constructs whispered in forgotten languages, speaking to each other with calm tones that contrasted the terror outside. They remembered every battle, every human who had sacrificed themselves, every colony burned, every war that shaped the Leviathan's soul. They remembered commands that modern humans did not even teach anymore. And because of those memories, the Leviathan did not trust easily. It followed the old Empire code. A code that demanded absolute protection of human lives at the cost of entire civilizations if necessary. As the Echo unit approached the nebula, Captain Mara stared at the Leviathan's silhouette on her ship's scanners. It was bigger than she imagined. More silent. More alive. Her breath caught in her throat. "This thing, it's not a ship, it's a judgment." Her co-pilot swallowed hard. "What if it doesn't listen to us? What if we're too late?" Mara closed her eyes briefly. "Then billions will die. And humanity will carry that sin forever." The shuttle continued deeper, illuminated only by faint nebula light and the Leviathan's slow, pulsing glow. Her team prepared mentally for the fact that they might not come back. Inside the flagship, the Admiral felt the Leviathan's voice return, heavier and colder. "A human team is approaching." The aliens froze. The Admiral whispered, "Humans? They sent humans here." Officers looked around, terrified. Someone said shakily, "That means even they fear this thing." The Admiral lowered his head. "They don't control it, do they?" No one answered, because everyone knew the truth. If Earth had control, the Armada would already be gone. The Leviathan wasn't waiting for permission. It was waiting to decide if the human team deserved control, or if the old Empire's will would continue without them. The Leviathan shifted its massive hull, and energy spiraled around its core. The alien fleet cried out as the pressure increased again, memories flashing through their minds. They saw human worlds burning in ancient wars. They saw old human soldiers dying in forgotten starfields. They saw the ship losing its first crew, dying to protect a colony. They saw humanity's darkest days, preserved inside the Leviathan like scars. And the aliens realized something terrible. The ship wasn't just powerful. It was grieving. For the first time, the Leviathan released a different kind of hum. A trembling sound, not of anger, but of sorrow. As if it mourned the ancient humans who built it. As if it mourned the wars they fought. As if waking up now forced it to face all the pain it once carried. Talar felt tears pouring again, not from fear, but from the weight of something older than her entire species. The Admiral felt the same crushing emotion, the feeling of standing before a grieving giant. When the Echo unit approached, the Leviathan turned slowly, its colossal form casting a shadow over the alien Armada. Mara's heart pounded harder with each kilometer. She whispered to herself, "Please, recognize us. Don't see us as the old Empire. Not anymore." The Leviathan's core brightened with ancient symbols, measuring the humans approaching it. And the final moment of Part 3 arrives with a shiver through every ship, every species, every soul. The Leviathan spoke again, but this time its voice trembled with something new. "Humans, return to me." Mara felt her breath stop. The aliens felt their hope collapse, and the ship finally remembered who it once belonged to. The Echo unit's shuttle drifted through the glowing fog of the Veil Nebula, its metal trembling with every pulse the Leviathan sent into space. Inside, Captain Mara Vance stood frozen near the viewing panel, her eyes locked on the enormous shadow that slowly revealed itself. The closer they moved, the clearer the truth became. This was not a warship. This was a relic carved from humanity's forgotten past, a being forged in an age when fear shaped technology and grief powered engines. Mara felt her chest tighten. She had seen holos of the Leviathan before, grainy, corrupted, incomplete. But nothing had prepared her for this. Its massive hull looked like black stone, cracked in places like old scars, glowing faintly with ancient symbols that pulsed like memories waking up after centuries of silence. The closer she came, the heavier her emotions felt, as if the ship was pushing its pain into her heart. She whispered under her breath, "What did they build you for? What did they suffer to create something like you?" Behind her, her team sat in silence. No jokes, no forced confidence, only the quiet fear of humans standing before their own history. The co-pilot whispered, voice trembling, "Captain, it's reading us." She nodded slowly. "I know." The Leviathan was not scanning their technology. It was scanning them. Their DNA. Their emotional patterns. Their memories. Their worth. The shuttle lights flickered as if the ship itself was evaluating whether these humans were the descendants it had once sworn to serve, or strangers not worthy of its power. Meanwhile, far behind them, the Zirath Armada watched helplessly. Every alien on every ship held their breath as the Leviathan's focus shifted entirely to the humans. For the first time since the horror began, the Armada felt ignored. Not saved. Not forgiven. Just irrelevant. And that terrified them more than being targeted. In the flagship, the Admiral stared at the enormous ship with a defeated expression. "It summoned them," he whispered. "It knows them. It belongs to them." His crew felt something break inside their chests. They had expected humans to control the Leviathan. But the truth was worse. The Leviathan seemed to judge humanity too. As if even humans were strangers to their own monster. Young Talar, still curled in fear inside her cruiser, wiped tears from her cheeks as she watched the human shuttle approach the giant relic. For the first time, she felt a strange, painful emotion, envy. She envied that the Leviathan looked at humans with recognition, not contempt. She envied that humanity didn't fear their own weapon the same way aliens did. And she envied that humans had something so powerful willing to awaken for them. She whispered softly, "Why would anyone build a ship like that? Unless they were afraid to." That thought chilled her even more. Because if humans once feared something enough to create the Leviathan, what kind of galaxy had existed before the one she knew? Inside the Leviathan, ancient AI constructs whispered in echoing corridors. Their voices vibrated through the ship like wind passing through old bones. Human signatures detected, one murmured. Bloodline confirmed, another replied. Emotional variance detected. They are not the same. They are changed. A deeper voice responded from the core, heavy like a collapsing star. Then we must judge. The old protocols cannot be ignored. Protection requires worth. This was the Leviathan's nature, built not just to destroy, but to decide who deserved its shield. And the ship was no longer sure humans qualified. The Echo unit's shuttle shook violently as an invisible force pulled it toward a docking zone that hadn't opened in more than 800 years. Mara grabbed the handrail, knuckles white, trying to breathe through the pressure pushing on her chest. Her heartbeat echoed in her ears. The ramp opened slowly, metal groaning like an ancient beast waking from a wound. The docking bay interior was silent, dark, lit only by faint blue lines tracing along the walls like veins. Mara stepped forward, her boots landing softly on the cold floor. The moment she entered, the entire ship reacted. The lights brightened. The walls shifted. Air moved as if the whole ship took a breath. A deep voice echoed from nowhere and everywhere at once. "Human, approach the core." Mara's heart nearly stopped. The voice wasn't mechanical. It carried sorrow. It carried memory. It carried the weight of still lingering grief, as though centuries ago it had watched the death of its own crew. Her team followed behind her silently, each step feeling heavier than the last. They walked through long corridors covered in markings, the old human empire's language, forgotten by most of modern society. Mara reached out, touching the wall gently. The wall pulsed beneath her palm, warm like skin. The ship responded to her touch with a low hum that trembled through her bones. Behind them, the alien Armada trembled harder, every ship shaking as the Leviathan's energy rose again. Officers grabbed onto railings. Drones hovering outside ships froze mid-air. And the Leviathan's massive hull began to glow brighter along its scars, revealing more symbols. Stories of wars the galaxy no longer remembered. Stories of humans standing alone against nightmares that made empires tremble. The Admiral watched in awe and terror as the symbols formed a pattern. A language. A message. The Leviathan was not only waking. It was remembering. And its memories were not gentle. Inside the core chamber, Mara stepped into a space so large it felt like standing inside the heart of a sleeping giant. Rings of metal rotated slowly around a central pillar that glowed with swirling black energy. Ancient screens flickered to life, projecting old battles filled with fire and tears. Mara felt her knees weaken. Scenes of human soldiers fighting alone against impossible odds, families fleeing burning worlds, commanders giving last stands flashed before her. Tears filled her eyes. She whispered, "You protected them. You saved them. You lost them." The Leviathan responded with a voice heavy with pain. "All that were under my guard perished. I could not protect them. My purpose was broken." Mara's heart cracked. The massive ship was grieving its old crew, its lost humans, its failure. She stepped closer, voice trembling. "It wasn't your fault. You did everything. You survived so you could protect again." The ship's energy flickered, as if surprised. The aliens watching from afar felt the pressure ease slightly, but fear still rooted them in silence. The Leviathan's voice grew softer. "You are not the same. You do not carry the old fire. You are different. I must know if you are worthy of command, worthy of my protection." Mara swallowed hard. Her team held their breath. Aliens across the Armada prayed silently. Even the nebula seemed to pause. Mara placed her hand on the ancient pillar. Her voice cracked with raw emotion. "We don't want to be monsters again. We don't want to destroy everything. We want peace. We want to be better than the old empire. If you protect us now, then let us protect you too." The Leviathan fell silent. Its lights dimmed. Its rings slowed. Every alien heart froze. Every human breath stalled. The ship was deciding, and the galaxy waited in trembling silence for its judgment. The core chamber of the Leviathan stood in trembling silence as Mara's hand pressed against the ancient command pillar, her pulse racing through the metal like a fragile heartbeat trying to reach a sleeping giant. Around her, the colossal rings slowed to a near halt, their dim blue glow flickering between life and death. The air felt thick, charged with tension so heavy that even breathing felt dangerous, as if the ship itself was holding its breath along with her. Her team stood behind her, unmoving, their fear mixed with awe, their eyes reflecting the swirling black energy inside the pillar that felt like a storm of memories trapped for centuries. The ship's voice finally returned, softer than before, trembling with a weight only something ancient could carry. "You say you want peace. You say you have changed. But change must be proven." Mara swallowed the knot in her throat, her voice barely stable as she whispered, "Then let us show you." The ship did not answer. Instead, the core chamber darkened, shadows stretching across the floor like cold hands reaching out from old wounds. Images flickered in the air, memories from ancient wars. Human soldiers bleeding on frozen moons. Mothers clutching children as stations fell. Commanders giving final commands before silence swallowed everything. Mara felt tears burning in her eyes, her chest tightening as if the memories were her own. She whispered painfully, "You lost so much." The Leviathan's voice rumbled through the chamber, heavier now, filled with grief and anger. "They trusted me. I failed them. The last command I received was to protect their descendants." The ship paused, its energy trembling like a heartbeat breaking inside. "But I do not know if you are worthy of that trust." Mara stepped closer, palms open, eyes full of raw honesty. "We are not perfect, but we are trying to be better. Let us prove we deserve you." The Leviathan did not speak, but the floor lit up under her feet with slow, golden patterns. The ship was reading her mind, her memories, her pain, her regrets, her hopes. Mara felt something pierce into her consciousness, not sharp like a blade, but deep like a truth she could not hide from. The ship saw her entire life in seconds, her childhood, her fear of failing, her guilt for the soldiers who once died under her command, her resistance to cruelty, her quiet moments of kindness, her stubborn courage. Her compassion for strangers, her nightmares of a galaxy filled with war. The Leviathan absorbed everything, emotion by emotion, memory by memory. Mara clenched her fists, gasping softly as the ship reached deeper into her soul. It was overwhelming, suffocating, like standing under the weight of 1,000 years of sorrow and judgment. Her knees weakened, her vision blurred, but she did not pull away. She kept her hand on the pillar, held her breath, and whispered, "If you must judge me, then do it fully." Her team shouted her name, terrified she would collapse, but the ship's energy wrapped around her like a massive unseen hand, holding her gently upright. Outside, the alien armada felt the Leviathan's energy rising again. A silent storm gathering, shaking their ships, rattling their bones. They cried out in confusion and fear as the nebula darkened and space vibrated with ancient power. The admiral fell to his knees, whispering hopelessly, "What is it doing now? What judgment is this?" Talar felt her chest tighten as if something far greater than mortal life was unfolding, something she was not supposed to witness. She pressed her forehead to the cold metal wall, tears sliding silently down her face. "Humans, they are fighting their own monster, while we just wait." The Leviathan's core flared brighter as the ship reached the deepest part of Mara's heart. It saw her grief. It saw her compassion. It saw her willingness to sacrifice. It saw her fear of becoming like the old humans. And then, something shifted. The swirling black energy slowed. The glowing rings steadied. The pillar beneath her hand warmed with a gentle light. For the first time, the Leviathan's voice trembled with something different. Pain recognized, sincerity confirmed, Mara's breath caught in her throat. The ship continued, its tone soft, almost vulnerable. "You are not them, but you are still human." Mara closed her eyes, letting tears fall freely. "Then let us be better." The Leviathan paused. Then a deep, resonating hum filled the chamber, so powerful it shook the nebula outside, so emotional it made even the aliens feel something like sorrow mixed with hope. The ship spoke again, louder, stronger, as if awakening a deeper part of itself. "I will protect you." The words echoed through every hallway, every system, every piece of old metal inside the Leviathan like a vow being reforged. The lights across the ship surged alive for the first time in centuries. Outside, the alien armada cried out in despair as the Leviathan's hull ignited with lines of brilliant energy. Ancient runes awakening, scars glowing like fresh fire, power spiraling around the ship like a rising storm. The admiral felt the breath leave his chest. It accepted them. "We are finished." But then something unexpected happened. The Leviathan turned its attention back to the aliens, not with anger, but with a somber presence. A voice spread across the armada, vibrating through every ship, every mind. "You threaten those I protect, but you also fear death. You fear loss. You fear the pain I once knew." The aliens collapsed where they stood, overwhelmed by emotions they didn't understand. The Leviathan continued, its voice quieter, almost compassionate. "Before judgment, there is understanding." Talar broke down in tears, her body shaking uncontrollably as she whispered, "It doesn't hate us, it just remembers." The admiral covered his face, trembling. "If it remembers mercy, we may yet live." The Leviathan's glow brightened again. Energy spiraled around the core. Mara took a step back, breathing slowly, every emotion shaking inside her. The ship had accepted her. Accepted humanity. Accepted the new world. But what it would decide for the aliens was still unknown. The core chamber went silent, the nebula grew still, and the galaxy held its breath as the Leviathan spoke a final, heavy sentence. "Judgment shall begin soon." The moment the Leviathan whispered, "Judgment shall begin soon," a tremor rippled through the entire nebula, vibrating through every ship like a silent earthquake. The alien armada froze in terror, thousands of hearts pounding as if a giant hand had closed around their ribs. The walls of their ships groaned, lights flickered, and metal frames vibrated like they were standing inside the throat of a waking monster. Panic swept through the Zirath fleet. Officers clutched consoles, engineers stumbled to the ground, and soldiers grabbed each other in fear as the air thickened with pressure so heavy it forced weak minds into silent tears. The admiral tried to speak, but only a hoarse whisper left his mouth, his once proud voice reduced to dust. "This is the end," he breathed, his throat tight with dread. But before despair could crush them completely, something unexpected moved through the nebula. A human shuttle, small and fragile, like a single flame drifting into the mouth of a sleeping volcano. Captain Mara stood inside, her body trembling from the emotional weight of her encounter with the Leviathan's core. Her heart still carried the echo of its pain, its memories, its expectations. She felt as if she had touched a soul older than stars, a soul built from grief, sacrifice, and duty that never died. Her team stayed close, silent, shaken by what they had witnessed. One whispered, "We are the first humans to stand inside it in centuries," another muttered, "And maybe the last if we fail." Mara closed her eyes, grounding her breath. "We won't fail. We can't." When the shuttle exited the docking bay and entered open nebula again, the Leviathan shifted. Its colossal hull began rotating slowly, revealing ancient weapon arrays and shimmering energy channels that had been dormant longer than any empire had existed. The runes carved across its body pulsed like veins, fueling a heart that had finally accepted a new purpose. Across the Armada, aliens cried out as their screens suddenly powered on. Only one feed available. A massive single eye-like core on the Leviathan, glowing with terrifying clarity, staring directly into them. The fear that washed through the Armada was suffocating. The Admiral felt his legs weaken and grabbed the edge of his command console. "It's choosing," he whispered, his voice cracking under the weight of what was coming. Young Talar pressed her forehead to her knees, tears streaming silently as she whispered, "Please, please don't kill us, please." Her fear was raw, not just for herself, but for everyone who followed orders they never intended to lead them into hell. The Leviathan's voice returned, echoing across every mind with impossible softness. "Your actions were hostile, but your fear shows regret. Regret shows understanding." The aliens gasped as the pressure around them lightened. Not fully, but enough to breathe again. The Admiral let out a shaky sob he didn't mean to release. His crew stared at him. This was the first time they had ever heard their leader break. The Leviathan continued, its voice layered with age, sorrow, and patience only ancient things carried. "Before judgment, humanity must speak." Every alien froze. What did that mean? Why humanity? Then Mara's voice filled every ship, broadcasted from her tiny shuttle by the Leviathan itself. "This is Captain Mara Vance of the Terran Echo Unit," she said, her breathing uneven but strong. "We are not here to kill you. We are not here to rule you." The Leviathan was built during an age when humanity was surrounded by monsters. It reacted to a threat. But today, humanity is not the monster it once was. She paused, her voice cracking with emotion as the memories the Leviathan showed her replayed in her mind. Dying soldiers, burning worlds, broken vows. "We won't repeat the past. We won't allow genocide. Not by the aliens. Not by this ship. Not by us." The Armada trembled as her words traveled through the void. Some aliens cried from relief. Some from fear. Some didn't understand at all, but they felt the sincerity in her voice, a weight that pressed into their hearts like warmth pushing out the cold. The Admiral whispered, She is trying to save us." His officers nodded slowly, hope flickering inside them for the first time since the nightmare began. Talar lifted her head, lips trembling as she listened to the human captain speaking like someone carrying the weight of an entire species. She whispered, "Why would she fight for us?" The Leviathan responded on its own, its voice resonating like a heartbeat made of stars. "Because she understands pain. Because she carries memories of loss. Because she carries what my first crew carried." Mara took a shaking breath, tears slipping silently down her face. "These aliens attacked us because they feared us. They feared the myths. They feared their stories of human power. If you punish fear with extinction, then we are no better than the old empire." Silence fell. Deep, heavy, suffocating silence. Then the Leviathan spoke again, softer, almost humbled. Human, your compassion echoes the first commander. Your sorrow mirrors the crew I lost. Your plea aligns with the new age. Its hull dimmed. The runes slowed. The energy calmed. The galaxy trembled as the Leviathan whispered, judgment, postponed. Across the alien armada, screams of relief erupted. Soldiers collapsed onto floors sobbing. Officers hugged each other without shame. The admiral fell to his knees, tears of gratitude falling openly. Thank you, human. Talar covered her mouth, shaking uncontrollably as she whispered, we're alive, we're actually alive. But the Leviathan wasn't finished. Its voice deepened, ancient power rumbling through the nebula like distant thunder. Your fear saved you. Your regret spared you. But your actions still bear consequence. You will retreat from all human borders for 100 cycles. The aliens nodded through tears. No one argued. No one complained. They were simply grateful for breath. But then the Leviathan's energy spiked again. Not with anger, not with threat, but with warning. A second fleet approaches. The admiral froze mid-breath. Talar's heart stopped. Mara's eyes snapped open in shock. The Leviathan continued, its voice colder now. Their intentions are not uncertain. Their fear is not mixed with regret. Their arrival is not accidental. A hologram flashed across the nebula. Another armada, 10 times larger, slipping through hyperspace like a tidal wave of metal and rage. The admiral stared in horror. That's not our reinforcement. That's them. Talar whispered one trembling word. The Dominion. Mara felt her heart drop. The Leviathan's hull glowed with rising fire. The nebula shook. Space seemed to lean away from the ship. And then the Leviathan delivered its final line, sending terror through every mind in the region. For them, judgment will not be postponed. The moment the Leviathan declared, judgment will not be postponed, the nebula seemed to freeze in fear, as if even space itself knew what was about to awaken inside the ancient ship. The energy flowing through its massive structure grew brighter, faster, more alive. Runes carved across its dark hull ignited like fire climbing through the veins of a titan, and every alien in the Zirath Armada felt their hearts pounding like drums inside a battlefield. Talar pressed her palms to the cold floor of her cruiser, unable to stop trembling as the incoming Dominion fleet appeared on every screen. Thousands upon thousands of warships, black and jagged, moving in perfect formation like a swarm of metal predators. Their arrival was not slow. It was a violent burst of force, hyperspace tearing open and vomiting out ships that dwarfed the Zirath vessels. The admiral stood frozen, fear swallowing his voice as he whispered, "We cannot warn them. We cannot negotiate. They are already coming to finish us." His officers stared at the approaching armada with silent horror. One muttered shakily, "They don't even know. They don't know what we faced. They don't know what they're flying into." But the Dominion ships did not come blindly. Their leader broadcast an open channel immediately, the voice sharp and proud. "This is Commander Rax of the Dominion. We are here to eliminate the human relic. Stand aside or be crushed along with it." The Zirath admiral tried to answer but only choked on fear. The Leviathan responded first, its voice flowing like thunder through every vessel. "Your intentions are hostile. Your past actions show no regret. Your presence threatens those under my protection. You will be judged." The Dominion laughed. Their ships opened weapon bays, countless cannons charging with crackling blue fire. Mara's breath caught in her throat as she watched from her shuttle. She knew these ships were not like the Zirath. The Dominion were brutal, merciless, proud of annihilating worlds. She remembered old records of the Dominion burning colonies just to intimidate smaller species. If anyone deserved the Leviathan's fury, it was them. But she also knew the scale of what was coming. "This will be a massacre," she whispered. Her co-pilot's voice shook. "Captain, the Leviathan is powering up. It's going into full battle mode." Inside the Leviathan, the core spiraled with impossible force, its rings spinning fast enough to bend the air around them. Dark energy swirling like a storm preparing to fall on an ocean of enemies. The ancient AI spoke, its voice deeper than ever, almost shaking the floor. "Human Mara Vance, Stay behind me. Mara stared at the glowing pillar, her heart trembling with shock. You trust me? The Leviathan responded, softer this time. You showed me what my first commander taught me, compassion without weakness. Duty without cruelty. I will defend your world as I defended theirs. Mara's throat tightened with emotion so strong she couldn't speak. Behind her, her team breathed shakily, realizing the Leviathan had accepted humanity not just as descendants, but as worthy. Outside, the Dominion fleet opened fire. The nebula exploded with beams of light and metal as thousands of cannons unleashed everything they had. Energy storms ripped through space. Plasma fire rained down like the sky tearing itself apart. Talar screamed and covered her ears as the shockwaves slammed into the Zirath ships, shaking them violently. The Admiral gripped his console so hard his claws cracked. This is it. This is how gods fight. But the Leviathan did not move. It simply glowed brighter. Then the impossible happened. Every Dominion weapon froze mid-flight. Beams held in place. Missiles stopped like statues in space. Shockwaves suspended as if time itself had bowed to the ancient warship. The Dominion ships jerked violently as their systems locked. Panic erupted across their fleet. What is happening? Why aren't our weapons moving? Our engines won't respond. We can't aim. The Leviathan's voice cut through everything. Judgment Protocol, Phase 1. The suspended weapons dissolved into dust. The Dominion fleet watched in helpless terror as their most powerful attack simply vanished without a trace. Mara felt her heart race as she witnessed something humans themselves once feared. It's beyond physics, she whispered. The Leviathan moved, slowly, deliberately, like a god stepping forward after centuries of sleep. Its hull crackled with dark light. Its runes burned red. The nebula itself trembled. You destroy without remorse, the Leviathan declared. You kill without purpose. You attack without provocation. In ancient times, you would have been erased. The Dominion leader screamed through the channel. We fear nothing. We bow to no ancient ghost. But fear was already leaking into his voice. The Leviathan lifted one of its titanic weapon arrays, something so large it looked like a mountain shifting its weight. A deep hum spread through space, vibrating through every creature, every ship, every metal surface. Talar covered her mouth, tears spilling as she whispered, "It's going to kill them, all of them, in one strike." The Admiral lowered his head, unable to look. Mara stared with wide, emotional eyes, torn between fear and awe. "Leviathan, don't become the monster you once feared," she whispered, though no one could hear her voice. But the Leviathan did hear. It spoke without turning. "Human, do not fear. I have learned from you. Judgment does not mean extinction." The Dominion fleet panicked as their ships vibrated violently, hulls cracking under invisible force. The Leviathan unleashed its first strike, not a beam, not a blast, but a wave of pure gravitational distortion. Dominion ships twisted, torn from formation, engines shutting down, weapons melting into useless lumps of metal. One by one, their vessels fell into drifting silence. No explosions, no vaporization, just helpless surrender. For the first time in their brutal history, the Dominion fleet felt fear they had never known. Their commander screamed through the broken channel, "Stop! Stop! We yield!" The Leviathan's voice cut him off. Phase 2 complete. You will retreat far from human borders. If you ever return. Phase 3 will not be mercy. Every Dominion ship powered down instantly. Engines died. Cannons shut. The fleet froze like a defeated army kneeling before an ancient king. Talar sobbed with relief. The Admiral collapsed into his chair, shaking like a child. Mara felt her chest loosen as tears rolled silently down her cheeks. The Leviathan dimmed slightly, its power settling like an ancient beast lowering itself to rest after a long roar. Then, with the nebula silent and the galaxy holding its breath, the Leviathan whispered a sentence that carried both sorrow and pride. Protection is restored. The old empire is gone. A new humanity rises. The nebula glowed softly around it, as if the universe itself bowed to the ancient relic finally finding peace again. But deep inside the Leviathan's core, another warning pulse flickered. More were coming, and the final judgment had not yet begun. Silence spread across the Veil Nebula like a soft blanket after a storm, the kind of silence that comes not from peace but from exhaustion, the kind that follows when death stood too close and decided to step back. Every alien ship in the Zirath Armada and the broken Dominion fleet hung motionless, engines dead, weapons locked, crews staring at the Leviathan in stunned disbelief. Some cried from relief, some shook uncontrollably, and some simply sat on the floor, unable to understand how they were still alive. The nebula glowed faintly, reflecting the Leviathan's dim, pulsating runes as the ancient ship powered down from its terrifying display of force. But inside the Leviathan, the core chamber did not relax. Mara stood before the glowing pillar, her breathing uneven as the ship's energy wrapped around her like a warm but heavy cloak. Her heart still raced from the battle she had witnessed, from the power she never thought could exist, from the emotion she felt inside the ship's old soul. She wiped her eyes, whispering, "You saved us, you saved everyone." The Leviathan responded with a voice so soft it almost sounded human. "I learned from you. I will not be what I once was." Its words carried sorrow, gratitude, and a weight that made Mara's chest tighten. Her team stepped closer, still trembling, still unsure how to stand inside a relic that could erase fleets in seconds. Outside, the Zirath Admiral finally stood, though his legs were weak and his voice cracked. "Human captain, you saved us from annihilation. Your ship, your relic, showed mercy because of you." Mara didn't answer. She couldn't. She was too overwhelmed. But the Leviathan answered for her. "She carries the spirit of my first commander. She has shown compassion where my old logic knew only war." Talar, sitting inside her cruiser, let out a broken breath, tears sliding again. Not from fear this time, but from something she couldn't describe. Gratitude? Relief? Or? She whispered, "Humans are not like we were told." Dominion soldiers, still trapped in their powerless ships, listened with silent despair and burning shame. They were no longer roaring predators. They were frightened children who had seen a monster older than their empire choose not to crush them. The Dominion commander tried to speak, voice shaking. We accept your terms. We will retreat." The Leviathan ignored him. Its attention shifted, slowly, painfully, unnaturally, toward the far edge of the nebula. At first, no one understood why the ship had gone quiet again. Then the scans flickered. Mara's screen showed something. A faint signal. No shape, no form, no ship, just a pulse. Steady, growing, wrong. The Leviathan's runes darkened. Its core dimmed. Its voice, when it returned, carried an emotion that Mara had never heard from it: fear. "No," the ship whispered. "It cannot be." Mara felt coldness crawl up her spine. "What is it?" The Leviathan did not answer immediately. The nebula around them shook with a low vibration, like a distant heartbeat echoing through space. The Dominion fleet began screaming across their channels again. "Something is coming. It's not us. It's bigger than anything we've seen." The Zirath ships panicked too. Is it another fleet? What is that signature? Why is the Leviathan afraid? Mara gripped the command pillar as the Leviathan finally spoke, a whisper made of trembling ancient sorrow. "My creators, they did not fear the galaxy. They feared something else. Something older. Something darker." Mara's blood ran cold. What did they fear? The Leviathan's hull cracked with streaks of burning red light, memories and warnings rising like ghosts from its metallic bones. "The reason I was built, the reason my first crew died, the reason I slept." The nebula shook again. "Stronger. Closer. Wrong." The Leviathan completed its sentence with a voice that carried the weight of a dying universe. "Has returned." The air inside every ship turned ice cold. The nebula lights dimmed. The stars flickered. Every living being felt a chill inside their soul. Then, a tear opened in space. Slow. Silent. Impossible. Not like hyperspace. Not like any known technology. A wound. A crack in reality itself. Mara grabbed the wall as her knees buckled. The Dominion commander fell from his chair. The Zirath admiral whispered a prayer he hadn't spoken since childhood. And Talar cried, covering her mouth as she watched something indescribable begin to crawl through the tear. A shadow, massive, shapeless, breathing like a living storm, stretched across the nebula, turning every sensor into static. The Leviathan's voice hardened into a roaring pulse of ancient terror. Everyone retreat behind me. Now! The Dominion fled. The Zirath ran. Even Mara's shuttle jerked backward automatically as the Leviathan activated emergency displacement fields. The tear widened. The shadow grew. A soundless scream shook space. The Leviathan's final words thundered into the galaxy like a prophecy breaking open. This is the enemy my creators feared. And it has come for humanity again. The nebula exploded with darkness, and the screen cuts to black.